Before we get started this morning, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. We've been absent for quite a while now, just simply due to some technical issues and getting those straightened out. We're continuing our study in the book of First Peter. The Apostle Peter wrote this letter to a group of Christians who he calls aliens, who reside as aliens and are scattered throughout the regions of Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, and Bithynia. The main topic, it seems, of this letter is the persecution or suffering that they are experiencing at that time. We're going to pick up our study in chapter 4, looking at verse 12 through the end of the chapter. It says there, "Beloved, do not be surprised at the fiery ordeal among you, which comes upon you for your testing, as though some strange thing were happening to you. But to the degree that you share the sufferings of Christ, keep on rejoicing, so that also at the revelation of his glory you may rejoice with exultation. If you are reviled for the name of Christ, you are blessed, because the Spirit of glory and of God rests on you. Make sure that none of you suffer as a murderer or a thief or evildoer or a troublesome meddler. But if anyone suffers as a Christian, he is not to be ashamed, but is to glorify God in this name. For it is time for judgment to begin with the household of God, and it begins with us first. What will be the outcome of those who do not obey the gospel of God? And if it is with difficulty that the righteous is saved, what will become of the godless man and the sinner? Therefore, those also who suffer according to the will of God shall entrust their souls to a faithful Creator in doing what is right." Austin, what do you got?
Well, in verse 19, I think Peter offers some encouragement for those who are going to suffer, and he really makes it very clear: suffering's going to happen. If you're a Christian, if you're following Jesus, suffering is going to happen. Even Jesus talked about that. If you want to follow me, you have to take up your cross daily. But this is the encouragement that Peter gives to those when they suffer. He wants them to do two things. First of all, he wants them to entrust their souls to a faithful Creator, realizing that God is the one who's in control, having faith in Him. Put your faith in Him because He's the one who's faithful, and we have to believe and trust that He's working all things out for our good, even in our suffering. And the second thing he says they need to do is have faith in the Creator while doing good. Don't stop just because you're suffering. Don't give up just because you're suffering. Continue to put faith in God and continue doing good. I think that's an encouragement we need to take as well. It's so easy when we suffer to say, "I'm done with this." No, we need to continue doing good while putting faith in Jesus.
Amen. Well, I want us to look really at the ideas found in verses 14 and 15. He discusses really two types of suffering, but they have some similarities. They're all both as a result of our choice, the choices of what we do and how we act. The actions that result from that will often entail suffering, but only one of those things will have eternal positive consequences. Notice again in verse 14, he says, "If you are reviled for the name of Christ, you are blessed, because the Spirit of glory and of God rests on you. Make sure that none of you suffers as a murderer or a thief or an evildoer or a troublesome meddler." Oftentimes our choices are going to result in suffering. We need to make sure, though, our choices, even though we may suffer now, will result in glory and honor, and that God would rest upon us. That's just a challenge for us as we live each day of the week, just to know that our choices have consequences, and make sure we make the choices that have eternal reward attached to them. Thanks for joining us today. Let us know what your thoughts are on this short section of First Peter. If you have thoughts or questions, we'd love to hear from you, and join us tomorrow as we jump into First Peter chapter 5.